Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Friday as we wrap up another week. Glad to have you along. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your morning with me. Democrats are admitting the government shutdown is their leverage to get what they want from Republicans. And, of course, Republicans are calling it hostage-taking. President Trump's Memphis, Tennessee crime crackdown has found dozens of missing kids, has removed 109 gangbangers from the streets, and has made another 1,000 arrests. South Carolina state-owned utility company is expected to take the next step towards rebooting a pair of partially built nuclear reactors in the state, with a decision of who will do that possibly coming later today. And Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott joins us in today's show.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, you know, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
There's a lot to cover, so let's jump right in because I want to talk to you about this story that's getting a lot of attention and for good reason. Because if you want proof that leadership matters, law and order still works if you use it, if you use the tools that you have and you let the men and women in law enforcement do their jobs. Look no further than Memphis, Tennessee, where President Donald Trump's federal crime crackdown is making waves and changing lives, literally, day by day. Over the past month, more than 1,300 people have been arrested in Memphis, including gang members, sex offenders, and fugitives. And here's the part that'll make you stop and take notice. Federal agents and local police have rescued more than 70 missing children in the process. Can you believe that? 70 missing children in Memphis alone. Imagine what could happen in some of these other large cities that the Democrats are blocking the president from sending people in. Attorney General Pam Bondi summed it up this way, saying, tolerating crime is a choice. Under President Trump, we refuse to accept the victimization of innocent American citizens and will continue making our city safe again. You know, that's a good point. Tolerating crime is a choice. And that's the choice that the Democrats have made. That's what Joe Biden did for 4 years. He tolerated crime. He allowed it to happen. He didn't try to stop it. Now, President Trump's leadership has a lot of folks, they're saying we haven't seen this type of leadership since the Reagan era, the kind that draws a line in the sand and says, we will not surrender our cities to chaos. Now, let's talk about what's happening on the ground. The operation, officially called the Memphis Safe Task Force, it was launched by President Trump on September the 15th through a presidential memorandum. It's a coordinated effort between the U.S. Marshals, the National Guard, the FBI, and local law enforcement. The president authorized National Guard troops to patrol the streets alongside local police. There's a partnership there, working hand in hand, a move that shocked critics, but one that's delivering results. Now, since the crackdown began, law enforcement has made 1,309 total arrests. They've found 72 missing kids. They've seized 247 illegal firearms and arrested over 100 known gang members, including affiliates of MS-13 and the Venezuelan gang Trendearga. And this isn't just some random sweep. According to the White House, many of these arrests are targeted violent offenders, drug traffickers, individuals wanted for serious crimes like murder, kidnapping, and child exploitation. And nobody had been looking for them before. Nobody had tried to do this. One of the arrests highlighted by the administration included a man wanted for aggravated rape of a child. Another, a known Grape Street Crip, was picked up for kidnapping, assault, and parole violations. 2 more gang members, one from the Vice Lords, another from the Gangster Disciples, they were also arrested on warrants, outstanding warrants. They've been wanted, but nobody has tried to find them. These aren't just jaywalkers. These aren't low-level offenders. These are dangerous people. These are people that I can't imagine any community would want in their city. They're off the streets now because of President Donald Trump. Now, for those who don't know, Memphis has long held the unfortunate title of one of America's most violent cities. You don't think about Memphis as being a violent city, but it has. It has been. In 2024, it recorded a staggering 40.6 homicides per 100,000 people. It's among the highest in the nation. That's why Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee has thrown his full support behind the federal effort. He said earlier this month, "We do know this is going to last for months. In fact, it will last forever." Let's hope it's given a whole new attitude to law enforcement. It has empowered them to know that with the right tools and with the permission to do their jobs, they can actually make their city safer. In other words, this isn't just a short-term PR move. It's a full-scale law and order campaign aimed at restoring safety in a city that's been struggling for decades now. Now, of course, not everyone's happy about it, as you can imagine. Democrat Congressman Steve Cohen, who represents Memphis, blasted the operation, accusing the Trump administration of trying to intimidate residents. Now, tell me how that's even possible. Tell me how you can make the argument that you are intimidating residents when you're moving these gang members off the streets. When you arrest people who have outstanding warrants on them, how are you intimidating residents? He went on to say, residents of Memphis are not enemies, they are Americans. Well, look, if you haven't broken any laws, you don't have anything to worry about. If you don't have an outstanding warrant on you, you don't have anything to worry about. So what's the big deal? How can Democrats make this argument? I just can't get it. I'm trying to understand it, and I can't understand it. I mean, he is right about one thing. They are Americans. Americans who deserve to live in safe neighborhoods without worrying about their kids being shot or kidnapped in traffic. But that's where this debate often misses the point, because it isn't about turning Memphis into a military zone. It's about protecting innocent lives in a city where the violence has spun out of control and where the people want their city back. He's missing that point. Attorney General Bondi, again, who's overseeing much of the federal coordination, said something that really struck me. She, again, the tolerating crime is a choice. Tolerating crime is a choice. You don't have to tolerate this. We have the tools here in America to not allow these people to come into our country and do this. She's right. Too many cities have chosen just to tolerate it. We've seen it in Chicago. Literally, Chicago is defying the Trump administration. Why would Mayor Brandon Johnson not want President Trump to help his men and women in blue get control of crime in Chicago? Portland's the same way. San Francisco, Washington, D.C., until Trump changed that not too long ago. And each case, if you look at it, the story's virtually the same. Soft on crime prosecutors. You've had elected officials calling for defunding police departments and citizens paying the price for political experiments that fail every single time. But Memphis is taking a different path. One that says enough is enough. Thank you, Mr. President, for wanting to come in and help our city. That's what they're doing. The Memphis operation isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of a nationwide initiative, one focused on restoring order in the most violent cities in America, and it is successful. President Trump's not waiting on Congress. He's not waiting for local mayors to act. He's taking decisive executive action, something Americans haven't seen in a while. Here's what President Trump said when asked about the Memphis operation. Memphis is deeply troubled, he said. We're going to fix that, just like we did in Washington. I mean, that's vintage Trump, isn't it? Just direct, unapologetic, and focused on getting results to help these cities turn around, to help them be safe. You know, it's pretty simple here. And there's a deeper lesson here to be learned. Crime doesn't just happen. It festers when leadership looks the other way. And for too long, some of our big cities have been run by leaders who see criminals as victims and law enforcement as villains. And it's time that we shut that down. And that's what Donald Trump is saying is, I want you to feel safe. You deserve to be safe in your own city. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. Well, folks, day 23 in the government shutdown. If you've been wondering whether Washington's gridlock could get any uglier, buckle up. Because now Democrats are openly admitting what many conservatives have been saying all along. They're using the shutdown as political leverage, and they don't appear to be ashamed of it. They don't appear to regret that they have allowed federal workers to go without their paychecks, for families to struggle so that they can win what they think is a political win. It all started with an interview that House Minority Whip Catherine Clark, the number 2 House Democrat, gave to Fox News' Chad Pergam. When she was asked about who's to blame for the shutdown, she didn't try to deny the political game that they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, shutdowns are terrible.
But are they criticizing your side, the Republican side, a pox on all your houses, saying, I need that paycheck, I'm a federal worker?
You know, we are seeing that, of course, families that are all of a sudden relying on, a paycheck for the work they do from the federal government, when that doesn't come, that's an incredible hardship. And that's why, we are imploring our Republican colleagues to come back to Washington, meet us at the negotiating table. When they are stiff-arming us, they're stiff-arming the American people and saying, not only are we going to let your health care costs skyrocket, we're going to be indifferent to those that are working hard and not getting paid or find themselves furloughed. And this administration has doubled down on that by saying we may not pay back pay as is required by federal law to certain workers that we deem their work unworthy. We are not going to come together as we have always done in a bipartisan way when a shutdown looks inevitable and make sure that our troops are paid. I hope the president does pay the troops. But that is not a lasting solution. He needs to get government reopened and reduce health care costs. And the American people understand that this system is rigged against them, and what the Republicans have done by taking away their health care, whether that's Medicare, Medicaid, the ACA, children's health insurance programs, veterans benefits, and giving it that money, those healthcare benefits, to tax cuts to the very wealthiest, that is not a bargain the American people are willing to make.
Well, I'm not sure who she's talking to, and maybe they have different values in her district. But when she says shutdowns are terrible, There'll be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, and then says, but it's one of the few leverage times we have. She's admitting that they're using this as leverage. Who does that? Who thinks that's okay? I mean, she said it out loud. Leverage is our friend here, basically. I mean, that means they see the pain of federal workers, of military families, small businesses, ordinary Americans as a political tool to push their agenda. Republicans didn't let that one slide. House Republican August Pfluger from Texas, who chairs the Republican Study Committee, fired back hard. He told Fox News, it's appalling to see the number 2 House Democrat openly admit that the left is weaponizing hardworking Americans as leverage for political gain. This isn't governance, he said. It's calculated hostage-taking. Pfluger went on to say that Democrats are using struggling families as bargaining chips to force through their radical health care agenda. And by the way, it's an agenda, it's health care benefits that we can't afford to begin with. But Representative Pfluger's right, isn't he? Because if you've been following the whole fight, the sticking point in these negotiations is the same as it was on October the 1st when this started. Democrats want to make temporary Obamacare subsidies permanent. They'll never go away. And like I said, we can't afford them. You can't afford them. I can't afford them. Those subsidies expanded during the pandemic are set to expire at the end of the year. Republicans have said, look, we'll talk about health care reform, but not as part of this shutdown. Let's reopen the government first. Democrats, no deal. Not until you agree to extend Obamacare. They are using the federal government as a bargaining chip, and they are taking the whole process as a hostage. So now they blocked the GOP's latest funding bill for the 12th time. 12 times. And that means 24 days without a deal. Now, the bill Republicans passed was pretty straightforward. It would have let the government keep running at current spending levels, nothing new, nothing taken away, until November the 21st. This is the continuing resolution, the clean continuing resolution that we've heard talked about so much over the past few weeks. Clean meaning nothing has changed. It's the same resolution they voted on over and over again. I mean, that's how these things usually go. It's not perfect, but it prevents a shutdown while Congress works through the details. But Senate Democrats said, no, we're not going to do it. They wanted those Obamacare subsidies written in now or never. And that's what brings us to day 24 of a shutdown. Speaker Mike Johnson has made it clear that Republicans aren't going to let Democrats extort policy concessions in the middle of a shutdown. And it is extortion. That's what they're trying to do, is extort the Republicans, extort the company, the country. The speaker's been saying, let's keep the government open, pay our troops, fund our agencies, and then let's negotiate health care, border security, and spending reforms in good faith. Seems reasonable, right? But that's not good enough for Chuck Schumer or Representative Catherine Clark. Instead, they've doubled down on this idea that pain equals progress. No pain, no gain, I guess, is their motto. That every day government stays closed, it's more leverage to get what they want. Now, let's just be honest here. Is that not a dangerous and cynical way to govern? We're talking about people missing paychecks, military families wondering when their spouses will get paid, federal workers being furloughed, countless small businesses that depend on federal contracts sitting in limbo. Yet Democrats see that hardship is something they can use to fix a problem. That's a bargaining chip. As Pfluger said, families are seen only as leveraged by Democrats. We always knew it. Now they're saying it out loud. Ms. Clark tried to justify her comments later by saying that shutdowns are terrible, but that this moment is an inflection point in the budget process. Well, who's ever seen a budget process that closes you down? I mean, think about a business, a large corporation. Maybe they have some bumps in the road in getting their budget approved by their board of directors. The board of directors aren't going to have the business closed down in order to work through those, though, are they? She even acknowledged that military families are being hurt. Spouses who work at as federal employees are missing paychecks, but still called it one of the few leverage times we have. That's cold comfort to families sitting around the dinner table wondering how they're going to pay their bills. Now, the irony here is that Democrats love to accuse Republicans of hostage taking every time the GOP fights for spending cuts or border security. But now they're proudly doing the very thing they claim to oppose. And the mainstream media? Crickets, mostly silent. We have probably talked about it more here than the mainstream media has over these past few weeks. Imagine if a Republican had said the same thing, that a government shutdown was leverage to get their way on taxes or border funding. CNN would have a 24-hour special. 60 Minutes would dedicate the whole program. But when it's a Democrat saying families can suffer for the sake of policy leverage, crickets. And let's not forget here, folks, the shutdown began because Senate Democrats blocked the House-passed continuing resolution that would have kept the government open. The U.S. House of Representatives, the Republicans over there, voted to do their job. They passed it. Even though they had Democrat opposition, they were able to move it forward, sending it over to the Senate. Since then, though, the Senate Democrats have been able to block it every single time, 12 times, while complaining about the very shutdown they're prolonging. That's not leadership, folks. That's political theater at the expense of American people. And look, it's not just paychecks now. I mean, the big headline in the Palmetto State was that the SNAP food program was probably going to have to be delayed next week, as soon as next week. People aren't going to get their SNAP benefits. Meanwhile, President Trump, who's been urging lawmakers to resolve the standoff, called on Schumer and Senate Democrats to stop holding the government hostage. He said that this week we will not be extorted on this crazy plot of theirs. And frankly, it's hard to disagree because this isn't about compromise. It's about control. They want to control the government. It's about Democrats trying to lock in their health care agenda while pretending they're fighting for working families. But guess what? They're not very good storytellers to begin with. Their message is not resonating with the American people. People see right through what the Democrats are really doing. You know the old saying, you can't unscramble an egg? Well, South Carolina might just be trying to prove that wrong, because this week, our state's long-troubled nuclear power project, the one that many call the biggest energy failure in the state history, may finally be getting a second chance. We've talked about it many times. The VC Summer Nuclear Plant is in Fairfield County, South Carolina. The project that was abandoned back in 2017 after $9 billion was spent, and not a single watt of electricity was ever produced. I've never understood how you could spend $9 billion on a project like this and then walk away from it. Well, that might change pretty soon. WIS-TV 10 in Columbia recently covered the story.
Nearly a decade ago, the plug was pulled on the controversial VC Summer Nuclear Project just north of Columbia before any new power was generated.
Since then, South Carolina ratepayers have been on the hook for billions of dollars in sunk costs, with the project still sitting dormant and thought by many to be dead.
State House reporter Mary Green explains why a VC summer revival could soon happen and who's behind it.
On Wednesday, the state-owned utility Santee Cooper put out what's known as a request for proposal, or RFP. It's now looking for a potential buyer to purchase the unfinished nuclear reactors at the VC Summer site and finish the job.
And we think it will benefit our customers, and we think it will benefit the people of South Carolina. Or we won't do it.
That's what Santee Cooper's president and CEO told a group of lawmakers last week about finding a potential buyer for the unfinished VC Summer nuclear site. The utility is now soliciting proposals from interested parties.
It's a move away from the traditional model of just looking solely to the utility to build the generation, and moving toward empowering the private sector to use their capital and their expertise and at their risk to solve those energy problems for the benefit of all of us.
Especially as more and more tech companies are searching for huge amounts of energy to power data centers and AI technology. Senator Tom Davis has been the lead advocate in the General Assembly for Santee Cooper to pursue this option and filed a resolution with broad support in the Senate, urging the state-owned utility to do this.
This would bring over 2,000 megawatts of power online, clean power, no carbon emissions. It would satisfy a lot of the supply problems that we have right now. And I think it takes off the ratepayers' bills right now, the sunk cost of that asset.
So here's what's happening. Santee Cooper, our state-owned utility company, is holding a meeting today. And on the agenda, it's a big one, a resolution titled Completion of the AP 1000 Nuclear Units in Fairfield County. That means that they're seriously considering restarting construction on those 2 half-built reactors that have been sitting idle for 8 years now. This isn't a new idea. Santee Cooper first put out a call back in the first part of the year asking for private partners willing to revive the project. And get this, nearly 80 companies responded. Got a great response. Of those, more than 50 actually submitted bids. We're talking about major players, utility companies, investment firms, even big tech companies with a growing appetite for clean, reliable energy because we know we need that. So today, Santee Cooper's board is expected to hear management's recommendation on which partners to explore a potential partnership with. That's the first real step towards what could be a historic nuclear reboot in South Carolina. Now, if you've been around a while, you probably remember the first version of this story. Back in 2013, Santee Cooper and South Carolina Electric and Gas, known as SCE&G, started building 2 nuclear reactors alongside an existing one at the VC Summer site. It was supposed to be a crown jewel of energy innovation, the first of its kind, using Westinghouse's new AP 1000 reactor design. But it turned into a financial and political disaster. Delays, cost overruns, eventually outright fraud crippled the project. By the time it was abandoned in 2017, the companies had poured $9 billion into the site and had nothing to show for it but lawsuits, bankruptcies, and some empty concrete shells. SCE&G's parent company, SCANA, went bankrupt. Dominion Energy swooped in and bought it up in 2018, and ever since then, that site in Fairfield County has stood as a monument to broken promises and bad management. Again, $9 billion, how do you do that and not have anything to show? Well, it looks like something remarkable may be happening. Santee Cooper believes it can turn that failure into a future. They're not looking to pay for it with taxpayer money this time. Instead, they're looking for private capital, private risk, and private expertise to finish what was started. That means the companies driving the state's massive energy demand, the manufacturers, the data centers that are looking to call South Carolina home, and tech firms flooding into the Palmetto State, they would help fund and consume the power. There's a lot of demand coming. Just ask State Senator Tom Davis, who you heard in that little clip a minute ago, and has been one of the leading voices pushing this effort forward. He said, "This is what I've been waiting for over 8 years now, to convert $9 billion of what many called a waste into a productive asset." He says that this could help South Carolina meet the skyrocketing power needs caused by population growth, manufacturing, and technology companies, the so-called hyperscalers like Google and Meta, who are building massive data centers here. These facilities use huge amounts of energy, and they want it to be clean, stable, and affordable. Nuclear checks all 3 of those boxes. But let's be clear, neither Santee Cooper nor Dominion Energy wants to take on the project alone. Both utilities are still paying off debt from the first go-round, nearly $6 billion combined. Dominion's customers are still paying about $2.3 billion worth of that debt, with 14 years to go. Santee Cooper customers owe about $3.6 billion, payments expected to continue through 2032. And that's the real downside to this, is even if this goes forward, which I think it will, you still have ratepayers out there paying these bad debts off. That's probably not going to change. But if the deal happens, private developers will take the lead. They'll need buyers for the power, engineering expertise to build it, and financial wherewithal to finish it up. But if they pull it off, South Carolina could see 2,200 megawatts of new carbon-free energy come online. That's enough power for 1 million homes, all without carbon emissions that everybody is so concerned about. There's really no reason that I can find that anyone would oppose this idea. Governor McMaster has been pushing for what he calls a nuclear renaissance here in the Palmetto State. He said repeatedly that nuclear power needs to be a bigger part of our energy future. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham has backed the idea too, saying he'll do what he can in Washington to help the project clear the regulatory hurdles. So, folks, it appears that there's some hope that this can happen. And if South Carolina actually pulls this off, again, it would be one of the biggest comeback stories in American energy history. A project that was once a national embarrassment could become a model for how public and private sectors work together to build the next generation of energy. And it would send a powerful message, too, that South Carolina is not afraid to lead and that we have learned from our mistakes and that we can move forward. Now, there are the skeptics, and they're for good reason. We've seen the movie before. We've seen promises of clean, affordable, limitless energy. We've seen cost overruns, lawsuits, finger pointing. This was a huge boondoggle. This had government boondoggle written right over it from day one. But boy, even though the public's trust was shattered with the original VC summer debacle, if this can be pulled off, it will be just a good testament that never give up, that maybe government can pull it together eventually. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On our guest line, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Welcome. Where have your travels taken you this week?
Well, I have been all over. I have been up to Rock Hill, and I have been to Spartanburg, where we had the third annual talent summit, which is great because we want to make sure that we're cultivating the talent we need for the jobs of the future. And interesting, I was on a panel with the president of SC Bio and Commerce, Ashley Teasdale, to try to get more pharmaceutical research here to South Carolina. Not just so much pharma, but the whole bio world. There's a lot of excitement that's going on in medicine, and in South Carolina, it's the fourth largest growing industry in our state. So I had the pleasure to be there and encourage companies from all over to look at South Carolina because of what we're doing in our colleges and our universities, and the amazing medical manufacturing that happens here is just unbelievable. Yeah.
Special elections, of course, this week. We have a nominee by way of Lee Bright in Senate District 12, runoff in House District 21. I guess the thing that just stuck out to me, though, Lieutenant Governor, is the lack of interest. I mean, the turnout was so low. How do we get people involved? How do we stress to people that these are important races and they need to participate?
Joey, I think if I can answer that question, I would be a political genius, but I don't know. I've talked about it for 7 years. You and I have talked about it on the air for 7 years. Yeah. And it was, I think the number I heard was less than 6% showed up to vote. I mean, this is a senator and a House member. Is it, I'm on the road so much, sometimes I don't see enough local news. I listen to a lot of talk radio, but, is it that we have to engage? Because I see less and less local engagement on elections. I think every time there's an election than I have the election before. So is it how do we energize our local news networks to continue to push it out? Is it more of the party's responsibility and to take a more forward stand and say, educating, door knocking, not for any one candidate because it's a primary, and it's something that we, our parties are supposed to stay out of. They're supposed to educate and be neutral. We see that doesn't happen in Greenville, which is sad. But is it, do we have to start delegating responsibility, Joey? Maybe that's a conversation we should be having is like, who's going to take ownership?
Yeah.
Because maybe everybody's looking at each other. You see that in business a lot, if something goes awry, everybody's going, well, I thought you were going to do it. And I thought you were going to do it. Maybe we have to put ownership on people to actually get everybody out. Is it posting signs at, Publix and Walmart and where everybody shops in those districts to get them remembering?
Well, it just you'll see plenty of posts of people complaining on Facebook and Instagram and X, but to do what they really need to do and go out and vote and be a part of it to make a change, they just don't do it. And I just don't understand it. And look, we talk about it. I talk about it all the time leading up to elections, go vote. Next week's the election, participate in early voting. But to have 6% show up in these important special elections, I mean, it's just, it's very disappointing.
You're right. I mean, Joey, it's disappointing that we only had less than 13% show up for the last primary. And that's at least scheduled. You know what I mean? That happens like clockwork.
Yeah.
And we only doubled a special election that very few people were getting engaged in. So there has to be a change. We have to be strategic about it. I know I always hear about Brian Kemp and his success winning the governor's race.
Yep.
It was because he had a whole ground game, and it's sad because running for office requires a lot of money. Whether people like that or don't like that, that's just the reality of it. And when you have to try to raise more money to do a get out the vote campaign to make sure that people get out to vote, that they understand the issues, that just makes it all the more expensive. But it was what he felt like he had to do in Georgia to make sure that, he got elected in the primary and then did it again to make sure that Republicans came out for the general, which is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's something that we have to keep working on for sure. All right. So you and I have talked about VC Summer many, many times over the years. It looks like maybe something is about to happen. I saw where they announced that they'll have a meeting tomorrow. I know the state accepted proposals earlier in the year. I understand they had a good response. Do you think we're about to kick off the finishing of these two nuclear reactors?
Yes, I've been hopeful for that, just like you forever. I know how critical this is for South Carolina. Our baseload energy has to continue to increase because the jobs of tomorrow, the careers of tomorrow, require it. And that is someplace that South Carolina in the nuclear space can be very impactful.
Yeah.
And, I was out, like I said earlier this week in Spartanburg, and, Alan Smith with One Spartanburg, we were talking that the topic of data centers came up. And data centers, everybody likes to, pigeonhole them as the boogeyman in the room, but that is the future.
Yeah.
And their technology is getting better and better. He brought up a really great point. The data center in Spartanburg, he said, which I didn't realize, was the second most revenue generating company that's in the county in Spartanburg.
Wow. Yeah.
And they are finding innovative ways to cool so they're not using as much water, and they're using natural gas to come in so they're not draining on the existing infrastructure when it comes to electricity, but the amount of revenue they bring into that county is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, we have got to be prepared, because I don't know about everybody, but when I was in D.C. a few weeks ago, I heard argument on both sides of the topic with data centers, but the most compelling thing that stays with me is, at the end of the day, every time you Google, every time you go out to look for a piece of information on your computer, you engage with a data center. Do you want that data to be on American soil, or do you want that data to be on foreign soil?
Yeah.
Got to ask yourself that question. And it was a pretty quick response in my mind was, I don't want my data on foreign soil.
Well, that's an easy answer. We want it on American soil, but specifically Palmetto State soil.
Well,
so we got to be prepared to support it.
And Joey, when you listen to the impact that data centers have on rural areas, it's a game changer in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Because data centers, they don't require a lot of employees. They generate a lot of revenue, which comes back into their communities. And they notoriously have been very good partners within the community, giving money towards infrastructure to upgrading communities they're in, giving money towards rural health care and education. They become game changers, and all I could think of is what an impact that could have on some of our rural communities.
Yep.
So there's some strategic ways we should be looking at this, and increasing our baseload and doing what we did. Thank you to the General Assembly for passing our big, beautiful energy bill and turning one of our coal plants into a natural gas plant. That just continues to be very positive for South Carolina.
Yeah, and those are the things we have to be doing for the future, for sure. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, always a pleasure. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Joey. I hope everybody has a great weekend.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.